To make our architecture drawing, we're going to be using a 6x9 piece of paper, a pencil, and a ruler. A ruler must be used for any straight lines that you make. Now, the most important thing for these prints is that the buildings must sit along the bottom of the page. So there should never be a gap between the bottom of your building and the bottom of your page. So use the bottom of the page as the bottom of your building. You do not need to have buildings going all the way from the left to the right side of the page, filling every little tiny spot. But we do need to draw as large as we possibly can. If you want to do just one building, that's fine, but it should be nice and big in the middle, and then when we go to make our print, we can trim the sides and the roof. So, the first thing I like to do is to do the basic outline of my buildings, and I want mine to be like a city skyline, so I'll do that with basic shapes such as rectangles. And because it's a city skyline, the buildings are all touching, so I can use one line for both of them. When you're using your ruler, you need to push down hard with your left hand. So I'm pushing down hard, and I need to draw very, very lightly with my pencil. If you push hard with your pencil and try to draw nice dark lines, the ruler is going to move and you won't end up with a nice straight line. So you have to try to draw as light as you possibly can. Then I'm going to add things like windows and doors and any other little details that we want to add to these buildings. We want to make them really interesting, but we cannot get too crazy because unlike a normal drawing, this will be printed. So you want to keep things with a decent amount of space in between them. Otherwise, the ink, when we go to print them, will run into all those little spaces and you'll end up with a bit of a muddy mess. But here we go. And there we go. My drawing is done. As you can see, it's not perfect. I do have some lines that I didn't quite erase all the way, and that is fine. This is not our final product. Our final product is going to be our print all the way at the end, and that is what I want to be as perfect as possible. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece of foam and I'm going to attach it underneath my paper. But this foam has basically a sticker backing to it. So you might see this little edge sticking out. Leave it be. Do not peel it off. What we want to do is make sure that the actual foam part is what is going to be touching the paper, not that sticker really smooth side on the other side. Okay, it's going to be a little bit harder. We want the nice soft foam. Do not make any marks on this. Be very careful with it. If you scratch it, that scratch will show in your print later on. So I'm going to line my buildings up with the bottom of the page. I can tap it like this to get it all lined up. Then I'll take a piece of masking tape, and I'm going to put a piece of tape where there's nothing in my drawing, so in the sky is a good spot. Put half of it on the paper, and then fold the other half on back to the back. Now that'll help it to keep in place. If you find that it's still really wiggling around on you, you can get another piece of tape and try to stick it on the other side. Again, half on the paper and half on the back. Now I'm going to trace my entire drawing with my pencil. We don't want our pencils to be super sharp because then it will rip my paper, but basically what I'm doing is my tracing will be making an impression onto the foam underneath, which will create my plates. Here we go. Start from the left and go all the way to the right, making sure that you get every line. Do not jump around at all or you might miss something. You can use a ruler to trace your lines, or you can go very carefully, but I would recommend anytime you're drawing a straight line to pull it towards you. If you notice, I keep turning my paper for every straight line so it's coming towards me. This foam is going to feel a little weird. You have to lay your pencil a little more flat. It can't be straight up and down like this or else it will tear. And I am pushing pretty hard. I'm using my muscles in my hand for this. Our hands are going to get tired by the time we're done. Alright, now I am done going over all of my lines, so I can carefully lift this up and you'll see that it made an impression on the foam, which is awesome. That's exactly what we need. Once you look and make sure that every line has been traced, do a quick little check, then you can carefully peel the tape off. Now this piece of paper we do not need anymore. You can take this home with you. You can keep it here. You can add some color to it in your free time. Whatever you want, we're done with it. The next thing we're going to do is go over our lines one more time on the foam with our pencil. This way you'll definitely have all of your lines printed. And I'm pushing pretty hard so they are as deep as I can go. But I don't want to rip the foam, so I'm not using quite all of my muscles. And there we go. All of my lines are now traced and they are ready to be printed, so it's on to the next step.